Hey guys, the Wood Craftsman here, and I thought I'd actually take a brief moment here to do a shop tour. A lot of people have asked for it, and I've kind of neglected to do it, and did a little rearranging in the shop here, so I thought now is a good time while it's clean before I start the next job that you guys might actually see what it actually looks like. And there's a few things I'll maybe talk about as far as how I want to still rearrange and address yet, but for the most part it's very, very manageable and fairly organized. So at least it's organized for me. So anyways, basically I'm standing in the right in front of the front entry door, and if I look around here, I have this 10 foot by 9 foot overhead garage door. Kind of walk back here a little bit. And everything in front of it's on wheels for the most part. I don't use that door too often, basically more so when it comes to unloading materials from the delivery truck, but other than that, I usually don't use it too much. So there's where I was standing in front of that door there. Just got some miscellaneous storage, some obsolete shaper cutters, obsolete cabinets, some miscellaneous paperwork and things like that. But most importantly, I have this wood rack, and a couple of them actually, a small rack up on top with just some miscellaneous runoff of some obsolete materials that I've gotten in the past, and some narrow rippings of some ash and some cherry and things like that. Otherwise, basically on the top here, this is the solid stock storage. This is all runoff or leftover from previous order, and I just keep basically ordering what's needed, and we go from there. So sheet stock storage rack, same thing. A buddy of mine that helps out with this quite a bit. We're actually going to be redoing this rack probably next fall, and actually be redoing a steel rack, so, and organizing a little bit better. And then the bottom is some more sheet stock, and this is sheet stock that's, for the most part, it's extra and left over from a job. So usually what happens is once I've got enough material, we'll do a complete job with the excess, depending I have enough of it. Otherwise, a few extra sheets usually works out really good for a small job, for maybe like a couple bookcases or a bathroom vanity or vanity and linen and things like that. So, and then the bottom is really some stuff that's probably quite old. There's some maple on the bottom. I do very, very little maple. It's mostly birch and oak. So, but yeah, and there's just basically junk stored underneath that, some extra doors, things like that. So as we kind of walk around here, where you see those two vents there, that's the dust collection system. It's basically two filter bags that slip over 255-gallon drums. And that's actually a hinged door there that opens up, and all I do is move that shaper that's on wheels out of the way, and then just some V-belt storage. You can never have enough V-belts, never know when you are into a jam. And then that is where the dust collector blower is. It's a belt drive unit, so behind that air vent there is the actual motor. So that's just a hinged door that I can open up and throw that up there to get at the motor and the belts. So below that is another exit door that exits into the non-insulated part of the shop. It's more so of a storage. This is actually shared with my dad as well. He actually does HVAC, and he stores a lot of parts and stuff like that, and some general storage over on that side. And this is the control center for the ventilation system for when I do finishing. So, take a step back here. So, this universal drop for the dust collection is used for a couple different tasks, actually about 3 different tasks. Right now I've got 2 shapers sitting here. This particular shaper, the PowerMac 27S, that one pretty much sits there at all times. That is the one that I use for doing the door frames. That's all that shaper does. It copes the tenons and cuts the groove in the sticks, or the coping and sticking. The shaper next to it is an older Delta Rockwell that I got a few years ago, and this one is strictly for doing door edges. So this one's on a mobile base as well, and it's usually parked on the other side. So usually there is a small dado head saw with the dado in it with the power feed on that I use for dadoing face frame stock. So here we have a line boring machine. I bought this a couple years ago, or actually about a year ago. I wish I would have gotten this like 10 years ago. This isn't one of the higher end models by any means, but for what I use it for and how often I use it, it'll definitely work well for me. The Delta has nylon gears, which I was told is really bad, but if I get 5 to 10 years out of it for my usage, I'll be happy. So, Porta-cable pocket hole machine, actually known as the Castle pocket boring machine. I've had this thing for last 15, 16 years. It's been excellent. Needs a little tune-up, but it's worked very well. It's cut quite a few pocket holes. So, and that's on wheels as well, just like the line boring machine. Toolboxes for just general mechanic type tool storage, screwdrivers, wrenches, things like that. And get to the center of the shop here. The heart of the shop is the jointer and the table saw. The table saw is a old Delta Milwaukee unisaw, 10-inch unisaw. I bought this from a retired cabinet maker I knew very well. He was actually buying the older Delta Milwaukee equipment and actually restoring them. And I got this not quite 20 years ago. And it had the original repulsion induction motor, and probably about a few years after I replaced it with a newer induction motor. I think it's a 2 or 3 horse. Remember, it's got plenty of power for what I do. Has the original AB starter, which is typically for 3-phase, but this one's wired for single. And I added the 52-inch Biesmeyer T-square fence to it, and I did that probably within the first year of having the saw. So, next to that is the matching Delta Milwaukee 6-inch deluxe joiner. This is the long bed, and it's got the hand wheels on the front. The short bed had the hand wheels underneath the tables, and it also has the cast iron base or enclosed stand. So the stand here is entirely cast iron. So this joiner weighs probably about 600 pounds. Also, again, the AB manual starter. So I've had both these for, like I said, the saw probably close to 20 years now, and the joiner probably 15, 16. So I had a different older Delta model before that one. They both came from the same person. So go down this way here a little bit. This is basically the breakdown area. I've got a 10-inch Makita sliding compound miter saw. I think it's an LS 1013. I've had this one for last 10, 11 years. It's been a really good saw. Thinking about replacing it. But if I do that, I'm actually going to redo this whole fence system as well. So this fence system is probably 15, 16 years old. It is called the Saw Helper, and it's designed to basically set up in any terrain, in like 60 seconds or less. So this is actually freestanding. Not really ideal, but it was the very first fence I got, and I'd gotten a really good deal on it, brand new. So it was definitely a good purchase. But eventually, this whole wall assembly, as you can see here, is going to be gone over. There's just a lot of stuff in here I don't need. I had gotten these Thomas Net books from a friend of mine probably all of 10 years ago, and they were 10 years out of date. They're 1992, but they're kind of handy because you kind of go through them and look at different things. It's, just different companies that have come and gone and things like that. So they're kind of interesting, more of a conversation thing than anything. So this is just wasted storage that definitely need to be gone through, and I'll do that once I redo this fence system. As I mentioned, I was thinking about redoing the fence itself. If I was going to redo the fence, which I will eventually, once I decide which miter saw I want to buy, I'll be replacing this fence with a J.A. Dowley fence, and basically it's a mechanical or just a manual, they call it a manual programmable stop system, and I'll try to put a link to one of their videos, their YouTube page. It's kind of like an overall product review, and basically it's a fence system that has it's a specially extruded aluminum track, and there's set screws or cap screws that you put in the back, and you can use it for basically preset stops. So thought about building my own, but by the time I go through finding the right extrusion that would actually work really well, I could just well buy it. A new fence system is about $600, so for an 8-foot left and like a 4 or 6 foot right. So we'll see. If I do that, that'll be a different video in its day. So we are in the kind of the finishing area right now. This is kind of a gray area. People have different thoughts on this. Insurance company hasn't said anything. They haven't threatened anything, so they're going to be okay with it. I'm not employing anybody, so OSHA doesn't really apply. I do have a hazardous waste license through the county and state, so I'm good there. So I see a lot of our different videos on YouTube about something like this as well, as far as, you know, how their system is set up, and people might argue, well, you need a spray booth, things like that. I'm not here to tell anybody what they need. All I know is that this does work for me, and it seems to keep the appropriate people happy. So my finishing cart, 2 Kremlin 1014s. Anybody out there who is a woodworker that does some serious finishing, I would definitely recommend these 1014s. I started with one, then I got another one. They're both used. I think I paid total between the two with the guns and hoses and everything, I maybe have $1,000 into both of them total. So you know, I'm a Graco person as well, but I've just been really had really good luck with these used Kremlins. So behind the tarp, just basically I got a flammable cabinet with some miscellaneous storage, and then on this side here I have a tool cabinet with all of my routers and drills and things like that, so nothing too exciting by any means. Here is the little table saw that I use for datoing. It's actually an old 9-inch Craftsman benchtop belt drive. So here is the little benchtop belt drive 9-inch table saw. It's got a 1/4 horse Delta power feed on it. This is my very first power feed I bought, and it's been a workhorse. Motor's been rewound once, replaced the capacitor prior to that, and it's just been a workhorse. I've had this thing for 21 years, so it's been good. That is my hinge boring machine, just tucked away in the corner on a stand on the mobile base, or a mobile stand, and that drills for a bloom pattern, and I picked it up at a cabinet shop liquidation down in the southern part of the state, and I paid $500 for it, and it's worked very well for me. So it's got pneumatic clamps, which I never really use, but there's a couple things I want to do differently. This is actually my drawer front mounting jig, but it just uses this extruded aluminum as your table, and I'd like to replace that, or maybe replace it with some smaller aluminum and make a nice laminate top for it. So, but that's a different project for a different day. 100 amp service. This is probably the minimum I'd ever get by with. I could never get anything really heavy duty with it. I'd have to go to a 200 amp service if I wanted to go anything bigger than what I got for demand. On a highest demand, about 85-90 amps max. That is in the summertime with the AC, dust collector going, air compressor running. Both are a 5-horse, true 5-horse, table saw and a shaper, and that's with somebody else helping me. So really the 100 amp service is, I would really say, the minimum I'd ever go. If I were to do it again, I'd put a 200 amp, no questions asked, because if I had a little bit more space, I would like to have my own single head wide belt sander, and that'd be a 10-horse, and that would be 60 amps just by itself. So I could upgrade this if I want to. The problem is, on the property where it's on, This actually is a sub panel from the house, so there's a 100 amp breaker in the house that supports this. So in order to make this, to get a larger service in here, there's a couple options that could be done, and they're both fairly expensive. This 100 amp service is dedicated to a 100 amp breaker that's in the house in this property, and that is a 200 amp service in the house. So I got 100 amp towards the shop and then 100 amps for the house, because everything in the house is gas. And to get this to a 200 amp service, if I really needed it, the best and easiest way would be is to have a separate meter for the shop and have a 200 amp service for the shop. So I'd have another pull pig or a pull transformer that would feed a separate 200 amp service for the shop. The other option would be is to replace the service in the house to a 400 amp, but that's getting kind of a big, especially for a household, actually be at a commercial. But in order to do that, you know, you have a 400 amp service and then a 200 amp service just dedicated to the shop here again. So it'd be easier to actually just run new wires from the pole with a separate transformer and a separate meter just for the shop. So maybe someday, we'll see. Delta 12-inch benchtop drill press. This one's been really good. It's a Taiwanese made model. I mean, it's probably from the early 2000s. It's been good. I used to use it strictly for hinge boring, but now it's just more so for general drill press duty. I use it more so for drilling metal, for like aluminum and stuff like that, for when I build jigs for the shop, than pretty much anything else. And I did convert it to variable speed by the use of VFD. I just need to mount the actual VFD on the drill press someplace. So gotta have a refrigerator in the shop. This one's probably pretty empty right now. Yeah, it's got some snacks in it, but it's pretty low on liquids, so, but it's just a refrigerator. Just some miscellaneous storage in there, some more junk I really need to go through, some shaper cutters I use occasionally, things like that. This here is a tooling cabinet for this shaper right here. Miscellaneous cutters, things like that, some parts. And then down below, more shaper cutters, some more tooling, my main raised panel cutter. And here we got some more miscellaneous cutters. My standard door edge cutter. So here's another Powermatic 27S. I have two of these. I have the one over there as well, so I have 3 shapers total. This one I converted to single phase as well when I had gotten it, and then I went and converted it back to 3-phase. I got it bare without a motor, so I ended up buying a 3-phase motor again because I wanted variable speed. And I actually used this Belder Series 11 inverter drive, or VFD. It's a 5-horse VFD with using single phase input, and it actually works very well. I talked to the Belder district office and kind of was questioning if the 5-horse motor for this 5-horse VFD was going to be too big because it was single phase input, and they basically said as long as I wasn't stressing the motor and if it's full load amperage, that the VFD will handle it just fine. So it's actually been working very well. It hasn't caused me any issues by any means. I just had to get it set up correctly. So my second power fit I ever bought. This one is about 20 years old now. It's been great. So it's an old Andina. Can't get them anymore. But this here is another rack that needs to go through. Originally it was supposed to be a hardware rack just for putting all my cabinet hardware and hinges and screws and things like that, but as you can see it's kind of turned into a cluster. It just needs to be reorganized, and actually I would like to get away with this rack, take all of my hardware here and redo this, as I mentioned earlier, redo this storage underneath here with some doors and some cabinets behind that with some pullouts and stuff like that to store my hardware and stuff. Typically I order my hardware as I need it, so this is pretty much just leftovers and runoff. So I would like to do away with this rack and maybe either bring that shaper over here or maybe that shaper over here, and kind of free up some of that space there, because it's a little bit crowded here. Not horribly bad, but you know, it could be worse. So outfeed table is also kind of a multi-purpose table. I just got some cubbies here with just some miscellaneous, so this is kind of like a miscellaneous tool drawer. It's got some floating drill bits and some things I don't use every day like that, but most anytime I'm doing stuff over here, I'm going to find what I need in here. And clamps. I don't really have wall space to hang my clamps, so basically I created a spot underneath my workbench where they all lay. It seems to work pretty well because most of the clamps that I use are 24 and 30 inches, so they're mostly always readily available there. It's just a matter of looking to see where the other clamps are. So if I had another 100 square feet or 50 square feet, I would have liked to build like a clamp rack for this. But going by what I'm working with here, I really just don't have the room. So, and then I forgot to point out, this is a safety speed cut panel saw. There's pros and cons to it. You know, it was their entry level about 20 years ago, and this one was actually had some shipping distress, so it got it at a really good deal. And took a little bit to kind of straighten it out again, but it seemed to works really well. And accuracy isn't all that bad. It's about a 32nd over 4 feet, so it's really not that bad. But normally what this is used for is just breaking down the sheet stock, and then I'll take it to a table saw and cut it down even further. So, but yeah. Okay, and central dust collection system. The dust collection system I have is something I actually made. What I mean by made is basically I bought the General number 4 blower exhauster from General Manufacturing in Canada, or General Machinery in Canada, and it was rated for a 5 or 7.5 horsepower. It's a cast iron blower. And it has a fan wheel inside. It's designed for specifically handling, you know, debris, stringy material, things like that, sawdust, and things like that. And it had 11-inch intake. And I worked with a company called Air Handling Systems, and they had kind of made some recommendations. From there, I actually went to Oneida Air, and they actually had laid out my ductwork for me according to the shop drawings I had sent them, and then along with the materials list. So I've got an 8-inch main spiral duct, got a 45 here, reducing down to 6-inch, and it kind of just goes all the way off, and then down to the bottom, and it goes over here to a floor sweep, and then 4-inch take here for the raised panel shaper. I would like to add a couple drops over here, kind of over in this area for like the hinge boring machine, and when I use the planer or bandsaw, which I have on the other side, which I'll show you here very shortly. So the dust collector itself is a 5 horsepower. It has an 11-inch inlet reduced to 8, and has a 9-inch outlet reduced to 8, so it's 8 in, 8 out. And basically, I won't open this up because it's too much of a pain, but there's 2 filter bags behind this box here, behind those grates, that slip over a 55-gallon drum and are held to the drum with a ratchet strap. The whole dust collection system probably cost me around $3,000 worth of ductwork. So, and I did that about 16, 17 years ago, and it was worth every penny. So, alright, I'm going to go on the other side here and show you the miscellaneous equipment that I don't use too often, and then I'll also show you the other shop support, such as the air compressor. Alright. And here I've got my Delta 15-inch planer. I don't use a planer that often. It's very, very rare. In fact, one of the biggest reasons I don't use it because it has a straight knife head and it tears fairly bad and it snipes horribly bad. So originally I was thinking about putting a spiral head in it, and I think I'm still going to do it, but for now it kind of sits out here. So the other thing I have here is the Delta 14-inch bandsaw. This is one of the very first pieces of large equipment I bought when I very first started. This saw is it's probably close to 25 years old. You know, when I first used it, or when I first got it, I used it all the time. It's been an excellent bandsaw. It's just a standard 14-inch, original half horsepower motor. Steel stand without the crow's feet. This one's got the straight legs. So this one I think I bought back in 1992, and it's been an excellent saw. Knock on wood, never busted a blade in it, so I can't give you any horror stories about busting a bandsaw blade, but it's been really good. So, and then lastly, a miscellaneous storage rack with just miscellaneous parts and some tools. I really don't use it often. This needs to actually go back in the shop, my track saw, but small miniature air compressor, box full of miscellaneous knobs and stuff like that for making jigs. More another box with some UHMW and HDPE for making more jigs. Nuts and bolts. Toolbox for cabinet door hardware installation such as pulls and knobs. A bucket full of plexiglass templates for making arched cabinet doors. Just some other miscellaneous boxes with just parts and stuff in it. So, box filled with electrical supplies, boxes, switches, wire, things like that. Got an old Makita miter saw down there, small table saw, and some leftover garbage cans for when I build the recycling waste baskets. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. And then on the other side in the sheet metal shop, that's actually my dad's, is where the air compressor sits. And here's the air compressor for both shops. This is the one that I bought back in November, put it together as a kit. And had some people comment on about it, how it was just a cheap Chinese pig, which, you know, it is an overseas model, but there's a long discussion on it, which I won't get into it. Bottom line is, the actual manufacturer's been around since the early 90s, and they always stand behind their product. No, a couple people have had these since like the early 90s. One's in a cabinet shop. He's actually got two of them. He's never touched them, so I don't question that this one will have any issues of any kind. I think it'll do just fine. Eventually, I would like to get my old Quincy up and running again on a separate 80-gallon tank and put it right there where all that storage stuff is, and move that. So have them two side by side and using them with an alternating relay. So. Okay, and this is just the other side of the dust collector box here. I've got all this stuff for storage here, miscellaneous screws and some parts like that. Some storage of some metal for making jigs. This one here is for another project I'm working on. Some HDPE, some extruded aluminum, some Lexan. So, router bit storage. I don't have a whole lot of router bits. I use a shaper for a lot of things, but I have your standard quarter rounds and things like that, and some little bit of decorative ones. And then this cabinet here houses my coping sled, and it's basically a cabinet that holds all the tooling for the shaper that does stiles and rails. And basically just got setup blocks, caliper, wrenches for changing the cutters and the spindle, a wrench for adjusting the fence, a couple screwdrivers if needed. Second drawer is all the different tooling that I use. These are dedicated bodies. I just actually got my hands on these here last fall. They were in basically an auction that basically is selling dirt cheap, and the manufacturer makes tips for these, and they're extremely cheap. So I've actually run these before now, did some testing, and they just run very, very smooth. This was my original set that I was running for insert tooling, and they've gotten me by up until now. So, but I probably got $700, $1,400, $2,100, $2,800. Actually more than that, about $3,500 in tooling. So I got a set on the shaper right now, just in style and rail heads. And then the bottom, just some miscellaneous parts that pertain to the shaper. So, alright. I've really gotten to like these. These are the air hose reel. And I was never a big fan of them because they used to leak quite a bit, especially the older ones. But basically what happened, what I did here was I bought a just an air reel from a company called Northern Tool, and I didn't like the hose that came in it, which I knew anyways, so I went and had gotten a Flexzilla 25-foot hose, and the hose was like less than $20 for the Flexzilla, and basically took out the red rubber hose that came with it that was kind of stiff and replaced it with the Flexzilla, and it's worked very, very well. So and I bought another one here just recently, a Bluebird. That one's got a 50-foot hose reel or hose in it, and what my thoughts were originally was to move this one over by the finishing area and then hang that big Bluebird over here, but I'm thinking that 50 feet is going to be quite a bit as well, so I might actually return it. I've never actually used it yet, so, but I think I'm still going to put that one up and move this one over by the finishing. I just don't know exactly where I can hang, because you need to hang them in a pretty solid area. So, but yeah, I've never had a hose reel before, and I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to try it, and I've been very well pleased with this one. I think the hose reel was like $69. I guess I got $20 in the hose. The Bluebird hose is supposed to be just like the Flexzilla, so I can't say that it is quite yet. It is definitely a soft hose, but I don't think it's quite as soft as the Flexzilla. So, and the Bluebird's actually made in India. But I can't complain about that because I don't really know where the Flexzilla is actually made either. So, but anyways, so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this fairly lengthy tour. Other than that, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this shop video tour. And we gotta point out the important part of the shop. Besides the refrigerator, you gotta have tunes. So, but anyways, guys, questions and positive comments are welcome. Thanks for watching.